All right, another fantastic innovation showcase. Thank you so much to Liz, to Kip Compton. Great breakdown on having the right cloud strategy. Multi-cloud is creating so much complexity. IT is facing all of these different challenges and finding that right balance between helping businesses to innovate, but also maintaining control, maintaining compliance. So make sure you hit the cloud area out there in the world of solutions. Learn as much as you can while you are here in Barcelona this week. We're going to shift now to services. We've got a couple of different great videos, beginning with a conversation between Rob Boyd and Brian Palma talking about Cisco's business critical services. Then we are going to move to a different customer interview that we did with Phil Wolfenden. I hope you like these two videos, and I will see you on the backside of both. Here we go.
Hey guys, welcome. We are in the services booth, and it is my pleasure to have Brian Palma, SVP of Advanced Services. You guys have had a lot of traffic over here, yeah?
We have, great booth. We're down here at the end. Big services real estate this time. We're pretty excited about that, Rob.
Yeah.
We've got all our capabilities displayed here. So we've got our advisory, we've got our implementation. You can see some of that back there. We've got our managed services, as well as our technical support services. We've got our learning at Cisco here joining us as well. I think you can see business critical insights. We're going to head over there in a little bit to talk to you about that. High value services right here. And a little bit there in the back, you can see security services, a hot topic for everybody. So make sure you come on down and see us, Rob. Get some people out here for us.
One thing I really respect that you guys do is that you've got games, you've got ways to kind of get some concepts across, because I think that's I think it's a big challenge as Cisco moves more to services. It's how do you begin to visualize and make concrete some of the things that are happening, because inevitably we're always staring at screens, so it becomes important to what's on the screen at the very least. So you've got demonstrations of actually how customers will interact with your services, as I understand it?
We do, yeah, and we've got games, as you mentioned, which are always cool. Everybody likes to come out and see the games, so
actually competitive, no less. I heard people are kind of ranking each other, and they come back and they check in. And
we got long lines for the game, so make sure you come out here ahead of time and get in line. But it'll be a lot of fun. I think we're going to take a walk over now, right? To Business Critical Insights.
I'll let you take care of it. You've got a demo engineer there?
Sounds great. We'll do it.
Thank you.
All right. Hi, I'm here with Altaf Karim from Advanced Services, who is the father of Business Critical Insights. Altaf, great to see you.
Likewise.
My first question, we've got Business Critical Insights behind us here. Tell me a little bit about what's the value to the customer?
Yeah, sure. So when you think about Business Critical Insights, there's a couple of value propositions that can be summed up in two key areas. First and foremost is that Business Critical Insights gives you access to this handy dandy analytics dashboard, and it provides you a ton of key actionable insights. But because this offers from Advanced Services, the key ingredient here is that it also pairs access with the dashboard with an AS subject matter expert who contextualizes and interprets what these analytics means to a given customer's network by meeting with the customer on a regular basis and discussing findings. Another key value proposition here is that these analytics, the install base behind how we generate them, is spanning hundreds of customer networks across the globe and millions of Cisco devices. So what that means in practical terms is that the analytics here is spanning across data, and we're able to identify trends and anomalies and outliers and patterns spanning across hundreds of networks across the globe, but then uniquely contextualizing what that means in terms of actionable insights to a customer-specific network, again, leveraging that AS subject matter expert who provides personalized recommendations and insights in the context of this offer.
Wow, that's impressive. Now, one of the things I know is we call this the Good Morning Dashboard. So what does a customer see when they log in first thing in the morning to that Good Morning Dashboard?
Yeah, sure. So when a customer logs in to Business Critical Insights, they get access to this Good Morning Dashboard screen, which is on the screen here. Now, the premise and use case behind the Good Morning Dashboard is that it's really a landing page, a home screen, if you will, for that network operator to browse through when they're having their morning cup of coffee. It's really a summary page that highlights network events, changes that have occurred over the last 24 hours that someone should pay attention to. So for example, if you look at this browser here, one of the things that's included on the Good Morning Dashboard in the left-hand corner is a number of unique connected devices currently on the network. And of course, if that number has changed, gone up or down over the last 24 hours, because certainly if that's changed, the network operator is going to want to know about something like that. Another interesting thing here is the number of crashes or the number of reloads over the last few days. And so, for example, if I want to find out which 44 devices reloaded over the last 90 days, I could instantly click here and it would show me a list of the device names, the IP addresses, the product family, why did it reload, as well as the software version.
It's a great level of detail.
Yeah, and you can actually dive in a lot deeper to get a really more granular. And then if you scroll down a little bit further on the Good Morning dashboard, it's going to provide you information about the top most interesting syslogs that may be occurring across the network that someone should pay attention to. You'll have information such as the top 10 hosts that are sending the most amount of syslogs, the top syslogs that are occurring across the network, as well as some interesting information about patterns and trends that may be occurring across your network in terms of syslogs.
So that's great. So I mean, the dashboard's awesome, but how do we have so many experts across advanced services? They're constantly making recommendations. How do we get those recommendations across to the customer?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Brian. So when you think about analytics and making them relevant, if you unpack that question a little bit, there's a couple of parts to it. One is, how do you know what type of data to actually consume? And what in that data is actually relevant such that in some meaningful way we can make a connection to the customer's desired business outcomes or goals, right? If you simply start from the mountain of data and try to sift through it, you're probably undertaking an exercise that's quite lengthy, it's probably cumbersome, and probably relies on some degree of luck to find that needle in the haystack. But this is where the advanced services expert comes in. Working with the customer, working backwards from the desired business outcomes and goals, he uses and leverages this analytics platform, applies his domain expertise, and then creates customized metrics and KPI, and therefore is able to provide preemptive and proactive personalized recommendations back to the customer.
That's great. You just said a key word, preemptive. It's one of the things I talk about a lot with our platform. Could you show us an example of how we could take a preemptive action?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And you actually remind me of an interesting experience I had yesterday on the show floor. I ran into a customer who was telling me about an experience where a user of his inadvertently plugged in the second port on his IP phone into the outlet on the wall, and it caused a network outage on that LAN segment. And that got me to thinking, it's a great example of showing how this business critical insights dashboard, if he had it, could have instantiated some set of preemptive measures that possibly could have avoided that outage. So if you scroll here to the KPI dashboard, what I'm showing here, it has a number of metrics and KPI that are important to monitor. And a key piece of context to know here is that everything you see in this dashboard here, as well as other parts of business critical insights, is leveraging intellectual capital and rules that the AS team has really developed over the span of very many years in optimizing and designing customer networks. And so what you see here in particular is something called configuration practices exceptions. And so what this means is that in AS, we have thousands of rules which are deemed to be best practices, right? And so in particular, keeping with our example, in this demo environment, in the topic of LAN switching, there happen to be 56 exceptions to best practices. So someone like a network operator should take a look along with their AS engineers to find out why those exceptions exist. So keeping with our example, for our customer, if you log into the LAN switching exceptions, you'll notice that there's a unique feature called BPDU guard that is not enabled and wasn't enabled for our customer. It's a misconfiguration. So if the customer had business critical insights, this best practice exception would have been noted, and they would have worked with their AS engineer to find out and take preemptive measures to figure out what steps could have been taken to mitigate the risks exposed by exposing this misconfiguration.
That's great. I love that. I love when we can take preemptive action. So listen, we're down here at the World of Solutions at the Cisco Services booth. Make sure you get down and stop by. Altaf and I had a great time today, and I'm sure you will too.
Brian Crossland from our solutions specialist organization. I'm here playing Cisco Solution Support Kingpin. What's the game about, Brian?
Right, so this year, Technical Services released our new high-value services. And what this game intends to demonstrate is Cisco Solution Support. Essentially, Cisco Solution Support no longer only covers your Cisco hardware and software, but Cisco Solution Support also covers third-party vendors that may be a part of your solution. And that could either be VMware, Red Hat, Microsoft, etc. Okay? And the value here is, well, you have a single point of contact for your solution support and your solution. And if there are any issues, you come to Cisco and you open one case up.
Okay, so the customer isn't left in the middle, hands it on to Cisco, we take care of the problem.
Right, in the traditional model, the customer would have to call multiple different vendors. Excuse me, VMware, excuse me, Red Hat. That's just a long process, it takes up time and management. With Cisco Solution Support, we become your primary point of contact. You open up one ticket. If there's an issue in that solution with some of those other products, those other vendors, our Cisco engineers will open those cases and work with the other companies to make sure that we get your solution up and running again.
Cool, so sounds nice, but here's the critical question. Do we solve the problem faster?
Absolutely. So with solution support, we solve problems 43% faster than with traditional SmartNet Total Care. So this means that a customer has an important solution, they have one single point of contact, and they're getting their cases closed faster.
That sounds amazing. So, as I understand it, solution support is just one part of our new high-value services portfolio. What else do we know?
That's right. So along with Cisco Solution Support, we've also released our software support, enhanced and premium, okay? And this focuses, or intends to focus on helping with customer adoption and utilization of our software, okay? And we also have TS Advantage. And TS Advantage is our network level service, right? Where we want to make sure that customers' network is managed properly, optimized, okay, by providing them benchmarking, KPIs, etc. And that rounds out our high value services. Solution support, software support, and TS Advantage.
Fantastic, thank you, Brian. So there you have it, a new range of high value services delivered by Cisco Services. If you want to know more, come visit our booth down here in the World of Solutions. So I've got to hot-foot it now back to the studio. See you soon.
This is the world today. We're riding a wave of technology that's changing everything. From how we communicate and share, to how we bank, educate ourselves, see a doctor, grow food, share culture, and otherwise live our lives. And it's only getting faster. Keeping up takes more than the newest hardware and software. It takes people. People with the expertise that comes from helping tens of thousands of companies worldwide adapt, transform, and grow. Experts at using innovation, analytics, and automation to deliver predictive services that solve problems before they impact your business, to help you seize every opportunity. It takes Cisco Services, a hidden force behind over 80% of the world's largest companies, as well as organizations with big ambitions. We foster innovation and deliver excellence. We are expert advisors, simplifiers, implementers, optimizers, and managers. Security, networking, data center, multi-cloud, unified communications, and IoT. We are here with you. No matter where you are around the globe, we are ready to help you do the one thing most essential to your success: to accelerate. Cisco Services. Accelerate.
Phil, I'm so glad you could run over here for the in-studio interview. Yes, you must be tired. And you've brought Yelena, one of your technical leads in technical services. So I'm actually just going to pass it to you guys so you can have a conversation about the evolution of tech, basically.
Right,
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So Phil, you have been within technical services for 20 years now. So how have you seen that the organization has changed over the years?
Sure, and clearly I was a very small child when I started 20 years ago. So many things have changed, you know, the technology, the mix between hardware and software, the amount of data and analytics we use now, rather than what's in engineers' brains. But you know, a lot of things haven't changed. Customers' requirements, customers needing to get real outcomes from Cisco solutions, all of those things haven't changed at all.
Oh, absolutely, agreed. And what about the role of technical engineers within tech? How have you seen that change?
A lot, but you know, as one of the technical leaders in the organization, I'll turn it right around. So how has your job changed?
Well, I must say that the past years have been quite a challenging period. We've been through a lot of changes within the organization itself and how we approach support to our customers. And one of the things that sticks out, I think, would be looking into software world and supporting software-based solutions, because they bring with themselves quite a bit of customizations, and supporting these customizations sometimes can be a challenge for our even the most skillful people.
Right, and things must change so quickly. How do you keep your skills up to date?
Oh, well, learning every day. It's a challenge every day, and every new service request that we get is a new opportunity for improving your skills. But I have to say that it's been a personal challenge for me to switch to a new technology a year and a half ago, being established expert in one area and suddenly have to be completely starting over in a new one. And that's what introduction of Network Services Orchestrator to our organization brought with it. I was asked by my team to set up a new team of engineers to lead Network Services Orchestrator support. And that brought an upgrade on my skills. I am kind of coming from more traditional routing and switching world expertise, and then suddenly I had this new technology which was bringing Java and Python coding, different APIs, application world, and then on top of that there was netconf and Yang as abstraction models, so it's really a brand new world.
Wow, exciting. And how do the tools that we've developed play a part in your day-to-day job?
Yeah, what we are really looking for in tech right now is to be more proactive than being reactive before. We really want to go ahead and prevent problems from happening. We want to be their advisor, that advisor for our customers. And we have built quite a lot of already famous tools, like machine learning, using machine learning, Twin, cognitive. And it's been there with us every day. It helps us solve some of the operational challenges much faster, so that we can really focus on what matters for our customers. And our mantra basically is that no customer should ever be affected by anything that we know of or that we could predict.
Great. So what advice would you give to talent out there who think they might have a career in services?
Well, what we really know is that this is an age of big data, and everybody, including our customers and including Cisco, is struggling with making sure that that data is used properly. They're used to meet the business outcomes and business goals of the enterprise and our customers and partners, of course. And what we are trying to do is to ensure that they have that competitive advantage with the tools that we have built in, and what we also want to ensure is that tech is Cisco's own competitive advantage.
Okay, got it. So to sum up, if you're talented, you love technology, and you love customers, come to services.
Definitely, that's the home of superheroes.
I think you summed it up perfectly there, Phil, and I just want to personally thank you as a former customer and channel partner for probably all the times I've talked to you guys and your teams, and
we
you've
remember
helped
you.
me. Yes, thank you. And thank you so much for the interview too. Everyone loves to hear more about technical services. You guys are a huge help. Go see technical services here at Cisco Live. If you don't get the chance, I'm sure you probably have the number memorized anyway at home. Thanks for watching.
Hello and welcome to the CMAX Silent Theater. Now this is the home of Cisco Live's Innovation Showcases. Now Innovation Showcases offers a look at the latest innovations from Cisco, not only providing the context, but also the inspiration today's IT professionals need to create the world of tomorrow. Now today we'll be exploring the world of emerging technologies. And to tell us about how emerging technologies are game changers for technology services, we have two great speakers with us today, Joe Cozzolino and Joseph Bradley. First up, give a warm welcome to Joe Cozzolino.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'll be frank, I'm getting used to this headset setup, so I just want to say bienvenido and welcome to today's session. Can everybody hear me okay? Thumbs up? Good, thank you. Hey, first of all, let me just say, I love coming to Spain. I've been coming here, I think, every year since 2007, whether it's for something to do with Cisco or before I was at Cisco. And you can't help but enjoying the tapas, the paella, and the great Rioja that we have here. But today I want to talk to you about something really important, about how the combination of data and emerging technologies are fundamentally changing and transforming businesses today. First of all, predictive analytics. Artificial intelligence and machine learning and automation are yielding tremendous benefits for our technology infrastructure as we know it in IT. These advances are making digital business transform at such a rapid pace to the benefit of our customers and their customers. It's the ability to detect anomalies and accurately predict behavior in a network or applications that reduce downtime and increase the value of the IT network and their applications. It also empowers IT departments to deliver reliable and secure technologies capable of transforming and having that journey to digitizing their overall environment. Today I'm going to talk about emerging technologies in more detail, how they're driving value, creating new revenue streams, and fundamentally transforming what we do and how we do it. Am I supposed to have a clicker? There we go. So, what does it mean to transform a business? Really, if you think about it, business transformation equals changes to the business process. We tend to always dive right into the technology. It's not the technology itself, it's how you apply the technology to the business outcome that you're trying to achieve. It's about aligning people, process, data, and then applying the technology to it. There are many components to a successful business transformation. In fact, some stats that I love, which aren't necessarily positive. Gartner predicts that 30% of transformations, they'll be unsuccessful simply because of lack of talent and a lack of process. The number one reason that businesses fail to transform is that they fail to reimagine their business, back to that business process change I mentioned. Without good business process, you can't apply technology and you can't get a different outcome that you're trying to achieve. You need an agile IT model. When us at Cisco, when we're actually deploying, say, automation, that is a continuous integration, continuous development partnership with our customer, and it has to be extremely agile. And to do that transformation, you have to embrace the entire architecture. It's not just campus branch, it's plus the core, the data center, security, the application layer, all tying up through automation, all the way up through to the OSS for the customer. It made me wonder, what are the barriers to this transformation that we're trying to break through today in our IT environment? So people who know me, especially people that work for me in my business, they know I'm a numbers guy, first and foremost. And so I commissioned a study with primary research, and I examined what are the major priorities and obstacles faced by IT departments across industries. Bottom line, the majority of organizations, both in Europe and US, which is what I limited it to, said that business transformation had a strong or significant impact on their business. But 2/3 of decision makers believe they can rely on their IT departments to transform their business. That's the good news. But with IT being at the center of the transformation, the pressure is so strong on our IT teams. Now that we've moved from 10 and 20 years ago when IT was the back office to the front office, the pressure to transform and to move with incredible speed and agility is greater than it's ever been in our history. So some other stats, 60% of our customers believe that they must transform to behave more like a high-tech company. I don't care if you're manufacturing parts for an industrial industry, everybody has to digitize. And 65% believe IT must support and adapt to change at a faster rate than ever before. So the pressure is ever increasing. And 67% report that IT leaders are the driving force behind their organization's business transformation success. So why do a majority of our leaders believe they need to transform? And why do 30% fail at their transformation? Well, first of all, why do they believe to transform? If we go back 60 years, in 1958, the average age of a Fortune 500 company in the world was 61 years. By just 4 years ago, in 2014, the average age of a Fortune 500 company was only 18 years, being listed in that top 500. And the reality is 40% of the companies that are listed in the Fortune 500 won't be there in 10 years. The interesting part is 30% of the companies that will be listed in the Fortune 500 by the year 2030 aren't even startups today. So great opportunity, but great risk for those of us who work, like myself, for a Fortune 500. We have to transform. So what are IT leaders focused on to make this transformation happen? When asked which of the following are your organization's top business initiatives now or in the next 12 months, the top three: number one, transform how they collect and analyze data. Number two, transform the business operations through automation, analytics, and optimization. And three, how they deliver products and services need to also be changed. So, what does this tell us? 56% believe that the IT teams must fundamentally change the way they operate in response to their internal business needs. So even though, the dichotomy is, even though 61% believe that their IT departments are the change agents, 56% believe that their own IT departments have to change more rapidly. So let's look at an industry example of transformation. You know, I'm a big fan of racing. I had, in a prior role at Motorola, where I used to work, we actually sponsored IndyCar. So it's not F1, but I had the privilege of meeting Mario, Michael, and Marco Andretti because we sponsored their race team. And when you get to know a racing team, the incredible athleticism of drivers, which isn't realized what they are, but also the incredible technology and precision at which they perform in terms of racing their cars. To be able to go 220 miles an hour, inches away from their competitor's bumper. It's amazing what the technology that they have to do that. Well, McLaren is one of the greatest racing companies in the world. And you know, they were the first to do composite materials for their cars, which the racing world kind of laughed at, then everybody followed because McLaren was winning everything in F1. And then they started instrumenting their cars dramatically. I mean, they got to the point where in a race, they were gathering upwards of 243 terabytes of information, using analytics to actually process that information and make split-second decision-making on changing strategy in a race, and even how the car setup was working. So what did they do? They realized, I've got an incredible asset here. Also, the expense of doing F1 was becoming too prohibitive to continually compete. So they took all of that capability and they transformed it and they used it in other industries. They actually were able to monetize that in pharmaceuticals. They actually used it for Heathrow Airport to actually optimize their ability to do baggage handling. They use it in oil and gas industry. So they actually took what was a business transformation for them with the data, analytics, machine learning, and they used it for other industries, which now has allowed McLaren to continue have a profitable business. There's more stories like this. I think about, I'm a big passionate believer in automation and orchestration and how it will reduce the operating costs and increase the resiliency for our customers. And I've had the privilege of working with one of the top 10 global financial institutions in the world out of the US, where we actually proved, working with them, that automation could fundamentally change their operating model. We did this over the last year. We actually, myself and the CIO were the executive co-sponsors, and we got our working teams together. And we said, where can we actually prove that automation makes a significant difference in my business? We ended up coming together, figuring out, okay, you know, the CIO wanted to do the campus branch side, obviously branch being a huge part of their business. Unfortunately, their infrastructure in the branch was too old to be automated. Fortunately, they had a more updated and new data center infrastructure. So we ended up working with them. Back to what I said about business process, once we agreed on that and had a plan of record, it actually took us 120 days to document the business process change, but it only took us 90 days to implement the technology. What was the result? Well, across 200 locations, 200 devices in 17 locations, and all the associated ports, they had measured whenever they make a change in the network, whether that's a policy change, a security change, or a software upgrade, the average time it took was 1,520 hours. Again, just across 17 sites and 200 devices. That included switches and firewalls and servers. Post the automation implementation, that number went down to 105 hours. They actually had a 15x improvement. On top of that, the resiliency and consistency when they did software updates or policy changes had a higher effectiveness of taking in the first shot. So it proved to them that automation worked and it made their business more agile with speed. Now, the good news for them and for us is they are now looking at refreshing that entire campus, that core, going forward, so then they can apply orchestration and automation to their entire infrastructure, because they know that's going to save them the time, and now their talented engineers that were doing CLI commands port by port are now going to be developers and programmers for all of the automation that they need to do. So finally, I think I've given you some great examples, but next I'd like to bring Joseph Bradley on stage. Joseph works in my organization and leads digital and IoT for Cisco services. And lucky for me, I get to be before Joseph because he's an incredible presenter.
Thanks.
Thanks, man.
Good job, Joe. Thanks a lot, Joe. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Well, I'm so happy to be here to have the opportunity to talk about innovation, and in the city of Barcelona, right, the city of innovation. When we think about innovation, today, we most of the time will think about the act of invention. And when you think about the act of invention in today's world, that typically means connected devices. So if I were to ask each of you right now, how many of you in the audience today have at least 3 connected devices on you right now? How many have at least 4? 5? Ooh, 6. 6. Now the record is 7. 7, you got 7 or 6? 6? 6. 6 connected devices. Now the record that we've seen was 7. The guy that had 7 was my hero. He actually had a Cisco router in his backpack. It was quite the event. But when you think about innovation, you typically think about the word invention. And if I were to ask you, how many of you remember when having a Kodak moment used to be a good thing? Or how many of you remember when we went from MySpace to now Facebook? So clearly, invention can't be all what we mean by innovation. In fact, we did a study last year at our IoT World Forum where we asked, for those who have already implemented IoT, tell me what are your top challenges? And you know what they said? They said access to talent. They said IoT integration with the business. They said budget overruns. In other words, they said innovation is equal to invention plus execution. And when I thought about that, I said, man, what they're really asking us to is to evolve to a new level of professional services. How can professional services, as we think about where we are today and the next 12 to 18 months, if we push out, how will professional services create value in the digital age? What are those core themes that ultimately will apply, where we have to apply both invention and execution to be successful in innovation? So let me share with you my top 3. So number 1, we'll go from 3 all the way down. First thing is, let me tell you, man, data has gravity. What do we mean by data has gravity? Ultimately, decision-making is getting real close and upfront to the action, right? Real time in this environment is too late. We want to get right up close to what's happening in the organization. We want greater business agility. You want to be able to offer an enhanced customer experience. It's going to help with the networking costs associated with capturing and analyzing that content. As you move forward and you look at many, many projects, there's no more managing from afar. We got to get really up close and personal. And one of the key areas that we've done this with is around safety. So a great example, we went to an oil refinery, and in this oil refinery, they had safety devices that were fixed in fixed locations, right? And these fixed locations would determine if there was a gas leak. The problem was, they're not in all locations, number one, and what's the most important asset when you're concerned with a gas leak? People. You want to know where are the people in relationship to those assets. You can't do that from afar. You want to be up close and personal and be able to make decisions as it's happening live. So what do we do? So we ultimately connected the workers that were working in the refinery, put a sensor on the helmet. That allowed us to know exactly where they were and where, if they sensed any potential gas leak as they walked around the refinery. Now we use edge analytics to compute and understand where the gas leak was, how fast it would spread, who we need to modify. Again, data has gravity, or decision-making moves closer and closer to the customer. So, if you think about that concept, how do you actually know, though, how to turn data into true live information? What's required? Well, the second thing that's required is, man, context is king. Data without context is very difficult to take action on, right? So what do we mean by that? Okay, if I went around and I said, how many of you value your privacy? Raise your hand if you value your privacy. Okay, we got a couple of millennials. Some people didn't raise their hand. That's all right. That's all right. That's good. That's good. All right. You value your privacy. Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. Okay. How many of you go to a grocery store, put anything you're going to buy on the conveyor belt where everybody can see it, and you happily do it? I thought you said you valued your privacy. Why would you do that? Everybody can see it. Well, why do you do that? It's because privacy, like many things, is contextually based. You're deciding in that moment, based on the amount of time I have to get in and out of the store, I'm willing to make that change. I'm willing to make that trade-off. Well, when you start moving decision-making as close as you can to the customer, context, the understanding of what's happening in the business environment around you becomes essential in order to take and make the right actions. As an example, you can imagine a retailer saying, well, I'm sorry, there's no way we're going to have a checkout line because people value their privacy, and in order to check out, we got to have private rooms for them to get their goods and go out. It wouldn't make any sense, right? So if you take this to a real live example around context, the greatest thing about the network is that it allows us to hold and contain context. So in this example, weather is one key source of context. And there's many countries in India and Europe and the US, fog represents an incredible danger on the roads. So the question is how can you, using context, how can you sense when there's a danger? How do you know, based on the weather pattern, what's happening, and can you take actions on it in real time? So in this case, we sensor-enabled the road, and by understanding and learning based on the humidity and density, we were able to calculate and understand over 100 miles such a road, how much time do we need to give drivers in advance before we allow them to enter the road? So now we can post a thing on the bulletin board, on the boards, we can actually shut down the road and commit a particular action while it happens. So it allows us to be able to take into context what is happening in the environment, right? Very, very, very critical. Okay, the last prediction I'd have for you in terms of where we ultimately will create value. How many of you believe that Bitcoin will take over as the currency? How many of you believe that Bitcoin will take care of the currency? Oh, so that means they bought it early. That's all, that just means they bought it early, right? Okay, my opinion is insight will be the currency of the 21st century. That's what everybody wants, right? That's what everybody wants. Everybody wants insight. That's the core, right? Well, how are you going to get insight? First off, I know you're enamored with analytics. And let's be clear, Joseph Bradley is not saying that analytics is not necessary. I'm saying analytics is great. But think of it as the icing on a cake. If you don't own the data, or you don't have access to the data, it's very difficult to run analytics. So when you think about insight, The conversation is going to shift to, yeah, I got the analytics, but do I have data access and do I have data ownership? Okay? Second thing that's going to happen is, I was having this conversation, as much as you can have a conversation with my 2-year-old nephew. He calls me Uncle Jojo, and he loves cars, loves them, loves cars. So we take him to Tesla, and I told my wife, I said, you know, my 2-year-old nephew's going to look at us and say, you guys actually drove these things? Were you crazy? You actually got in the road and you tried to drive these things down the road? What were you thinking? Well, how is he going to be able to say that? That's because security has to evolve beyond where it is today and will move towards integrity, will move towards trust. In other words, there's a big difference between an autonomous vehicle being secure and the autonomous vehicle knowing that in 5 feet, because the radio has communicated to the sign on the street, I need to stop, there's a stop sign. What happens is there's some moisture and it believes 5 feet is now 6 feet. Uh-oh, especially if you happen to be in a crosswalk, right? So security will move to not only is the data secure, but is the data right? So we're going to see things like trust and blockchain technologies begin to take place. And the last one probably is the one I'm most excited about. I know there's been a lot of articles written around automation and AI is going to replace jobs, right? We as IT professionals, they're not going to need us anymore, right? Lots of debate around that, right? I happen to be a digital humanist. A digital humanist means that digital technology is there to make us better. So what I believe is going to happen is this is going to allow us to scale on IP rather than people. So what does that mean? I mean, get rid of people, it means the scaling factor is on IP rather than people. So if you think about the network intuitive, and you think about cloud computing, you think about automation, what is it to an IT professional? My favorite superhero, man, it's Iron Man. We're giving you Iron Man. We're not replacing you, right? We're gonna make you work smarter, faster, see things that you couldn't see before, greater visibility. You put on that Iron Man suit, man, and you're ready to go. That's the notion, right? That's the idea. So a great example of a project that we worked was in trying to understand and extend the life of an oil rig. We had to understand whether that, one, could we trust the data to make sure the data was accurate? We had to manage to make sure that out of all these proprietary machines that we could actually get access to the data and capture the data. We had to analyze the data there locally on the rig, and it was basically understanding as the oil rig was being suctioned from the ground, from the ocean floor, looking at temperature variance so we could tell where there was a leak, so we knew where to cap it off at. And then once we do all that stuff all locally, what actions can we take on the rig and what actions needs to be sent back? So a really good example of we kind of brought all these things together. So 3 things, right, that I think will fundamentally shape where we're having. Data has gravity, right? Decision making is moving closer and closer to the customer. Second thing is, right, context is king. How do you understand, if you want to make data, you want to make better decisions, you got to understand the context, because without context, man, you're in trouble, right? And the third thing has to be around insight. Ultimately, insight is the currency of the 21st century, so there, you got to make sure you have data access, you got to have data ownership, and you ultimately have to make sure that you scale on an IP basis. I'll leave you with this. I think one of the greatest learnings that we've had the opportunity to learn at Cisco and I think others, as we watch people implement, and IT professionals in your role, implement technologies associated with digital and IoT, is we learn that you actually consume a platform, but you buy solutions. You consume a platform, but you buy a solution. Meaning that there's many tools that you can have and that we will make available to you, but that's not enough. From a professional services standpoint, we got to take your hand and lead you to the promised land. The promised land is, give me a solution that ultimately drives value, connects with my people, and allows me to move to the next generation of performance. So with that, hope you enjoyed that. I'll ask Joe to come up and close it for us.
Great job, Joseph. do you see what I mean about it's tough to follow him? So, just in terms of some closing thoughts, when you think about it, as Darwin said, it's not survival of the fittest, it's the most adaptable. And transformation is about survival and adaptability. So, Joseph, again, I just want to thank you. That was great. You've got a lot better analogies than some of the ones that I use that I'm going to steal at some point. So, we're only beginning to see what the power of data is and what the value that it will bring to us and how it will lead to that value. There are other factors that require us to execute transformation. And, I'm fond of saying that you can't do transformation or you can't execute something without some fundamental things. People, it always starts with people. It starts with the talent. It starts with a team, a diverse team of people that are willing to collaborate, work tightly with each other, trust each other to make that execution happen. And then it requires great process. It requires a lot of discipline. You can't zig and zag your way to that outcome. You have to have great discipline to get a straight line to the outcome that you're looking for. And it requires incredible focus. And I've said this to customers I've talked to before that wanted lots of things to be added on. And I would say, listen, the only way you deliver something on time, on quality, is, besides the people, process, discipline, and focus. Nothing in those words says nice. Nothing in those words say really flexible. It says you have a plan and you execute to the plan. So when I think about transformation, I think about how you execute to the outcome, and you do that on time, and you do it with incredible quality. That's kind of the mantra that we live with in a services world. It's about executing for our customers. So as you contemplate the state of your own business and the transformation that you're going to go through, consider the following. And I'll leave you with these 4 things. First, to maybe take on Joseph's, if data is the new oil, then analytic systems are the refineries for that. Second, insights provided with precision in real time will drive competitive advantage. Back to what you said, data near the edge, right? Third, digitizing business workflows and automating them will drive massive efficiencies and speed. So back to creating Iron Man. And fourth, focusing on developing and recruiting the next gen of talent will enhance your efforts to a digital transformation. You said it great. I mean, I look at what we're dealing with today in our industry. We've got a 1 million person shortage in security expertise as we sit here today. That number is projected to grow to 1.5 million by 2021. We've got a 1 million person shortage in data scientists and data analysts. There's no lack of work for us in the IT domain and technology. We do have to get the Iron Man thing working, otherwise we're never going to close that gap. We're never going to be able to fulfill the promise that we have in technology. So let me leave you with this final quote from a gentleman I had the pleasure of working on a project with. It's gentleman Adam Stelzner, and he's literally a rocket scientist, and he has been in charge of the Mars mission from NASA. This is the best way to say it. Scientists prove the world that is. Engineers create the world that has never been. And everybody in this room are engineers that have to create what has never been. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of Cisco Live. Appreciate your time.
And welcome back to the Cisco TV studio, coming at you live from the world of solutions here in Barcelona at Cisco Live 2018, another fantastic innovation showcase. For those of you who are just tuning in for the first time right now to our broadcast, either through Cisco.com or Cisco.com EMEA, we want to welcome you all back. We're glad to have you with us. This is ongoing coverage. We kicked off first thing this morning, as we do each and every day. We roll all the way through to the end of the day. So much content. I want to remind you, stay connected to us, please, on social media using hashtag CLEUR, hashtag CLEUR, Cisco Live Europe. There it is up there on the monitor. I promise if you talk to us, we will talk back to you via Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever you like to use, that is great. Here at the end of the day in our wrap-up show, we are going to feature some of your tweets, some of your Facebook posts and photos. Please stay connected to us. We love to hear from you. Let's keep them going as much as we can. The crowds out here on the concourse is still phenomenal. Everybody is moving around. That innovation showcase. I just want to comment very briefly. Joe Cosolino, he's our Senior VP at Cisco Services. I had a chance to talk with Joe in a little sit down, Joe and Santiago and I, yesterday morning before we went into the keynote. Great guy, and we were talking about a lot of the great new capabilities, a lot of what we're driving toward as an industry, and Joe really helped to set the theme for the entire conference as we rolled into Rowan's opening keynote. Right now though, emerging technologies, they are game changers for technology services. Today's businesses, they really rely on these complex emerging technologies that really help to power digital transformation, every single aspect of their operations, from the supply chain to manufacturing to business operations, customer service. Joe is telling us 65% of IT executives believe automation is the driving force behind their transformation initiatives. So exciting. He gave us the results of Cisco's European survey of IT and business executives. He looked at the priorities, the obstacles that we are facing in IT departments at different organizations as they embrace digital business transformation. Very exciting. Our own Lauren Malhoit had a chance to sit down with Joe Cosolino, and we should check out that VT right now. Very exciting stuff. Let's take a look.
Hi everyone, I'm here with Joe Cosolino and Dave Malik. We're going to be talking about the ever important services. There was actually a huge services launch back in October. Lots of information to go over, some really cool stuff. Also want to call out Dave Malik for being the first Cisco Services Fellow. So with that, I'm actually going to pass it along to Joe. He's going to make my job easier for me.
Thanks very much. Well, hey, Dave. We have some time together here. I've got a few questions for you. And you and I have been working together on automation, orchestration, how it affects our customers, and getting some great results. But let me just first ask you the first question. Why is automation and orchestration so important as a strategic initiative?
Yeah, as our customers are going through their transformation journey across the digital era, one of the areas that they're really focusing on is speed. And sometimes actually speed becomes more important than cost. Right. And the other one is dramatically reducing OpEx as they go through that journey, more importantly. And third, as they're working through their multi-cloud journey as well, private and public or hybrid, policy, control, and governance become extremely important. And the only way to really do that pervasively is to automate and be able to orchestrate across very diverse subsystems.
Right. And maybe you can talk a little bit, before we get off this question, everybody thinks about automation as just the network. It goes beyond that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. If we look at the entire stack, and that's what our customers are saying when they're running business applications and transactions, so we have to automate the workflow, which I think is very important, because the workflow consists of infrastructure all the way to the app layer.
Right. And
getting full visibility end-to-end, which is critical as they look at the competitive marketplace.
Which then brings in security, and then it brings in even our collaboration portfolio.
Absolutely.
So, perfect. Hey, next question. How do you see the role of machine learning impacting the way networks are being built and operated today?
For one thing, Joe, I believe the network data is now becoming a big data problem. And more folks are now starting to realize that big data is not just your basic Hadoop clusters that used to run for analytics. Now for network data, we need big data analytics platforms as well.
Right.
And as telemetry and real-time data is coming from applications and networks, to generate those forensics and correlate those millions of flows and data points, it's impossible for humans to do it. And the key area that our customers are really looking at for ML is for security. As our threat actors are getting more and more intelligent, and the attack surface is constantly moving and very dynamic, you need to have ML to do all the correlation and to drive those actionable insights that we can actually drive results.
That's a great point. We always talk about the data lake
Yes.
When it comes to this, it's more like a data ocean.
Absolutely.
And you've got to have.
And you can drown in the ocean sometimes.
Right. Right. Get lost really quickly.
Absolutely.
It's a great point. Hey, last question I wanted to ask for the audience. Can you give me an example of a customer, customer that you've worked with that you're proud of in terms of the results?
There's quite a few data points, but one that stands out is, you always start small, and then you expand much larger. And one client we've been working with for about a year now is to really drive some large campus refresh programs and core migrations backbone. And as we saw the migrations happen through automation, through compliance, operating system upgrades, zero-touch provisioning, and the common basic use cases, we saw 60 to 70% of labor reduction, where those resources were shifted to higher value programs in the firm.
Right.
But more importantly, OpEx reduction was north of 30 to 40%. And now, as the conversation becomes much further along in the transformation journey, the aperture has opened up to look at security now, which is what I pointed earlier, collaboration and branch. And you have to really look at it from a very strong, cohesive approach as you do multi-domain orchestration to really drive results from a firm-wide perspective.
So if I recap what you just said, it went from one area of their network where we did a proof of concept to now we're looking at campus branch, core, data center, security, and collaboration.
Absolutely.
And then northbound to the OSS and southbound through the apps as well.
Absolutely. Third-party systems is critical because we do understand our clients have BMC, ServiceNow, the household names, ticketing systems, compliance and risk systems. So the key is not just a product itself, but looking at the entire system, but more importantly, looking at the business workflow from end to end, which is critical. Not only we want to automate the technology piece, we need to automate the business process workflow as well, because that is what's really going to drive the best bang.
And that business process change management and getting that right is critical.
It's critical in this digital era, and there are several use cases that we've seen where it has been dramatically successful. And I'm a big fan of rinsing and repeating. So we're leveraging those insights with our clients in future engagements and prospects, which is helping us scale.
That's great. I mean, if I summarized it, it's a win-win-win, right? It's a win for Cisco because it drives refresh of what is an aging infrastructure. It's a win for the customer because they reduce costs and they increase speed, and for the IT customer, but it's a win for the businesses that they serve because it increases speed.
Absolutely, and just one point to drive home is I call the trifecta.
Yeah.
So it's automation, analytics, and assurance, because you have to know what you intended to do is actually happening at the right service levels and security policies. So I think those 3 A's are very critical as we take our customers down the broader transformation journey.
It's awesome. Well, Dave, thank you very much. I know how much time you've put into the effort of getting us as Cisco up to this point where we can take on the lead for large customers like the ones you're working with. So
absolutely,
thank
it's been
you
a pleasure.
So much.
Thank you.
Great.
Gentlemen, thank you so much, Joe, Dave. That was fantastic. The important message, we're helping our customers evolve, right? I think that's great.
Absolutely.
Everyone, thank you so much for watching, and thanks to Joe and Dave.
All right, welcome back to the TV studio. We want to give a big shout out of thanks to Joe Cosolino, to Dave Malik, and to Lauren Malhoit. Great information. So what did we talk about? We talked about why it is so vital as the attack surface continues to expand and grow that we focus on things like core migration through automation, compliance, zero-touch provisioning. They talked a little bit about this reduction in resources required by making those kinds of jumps forward, how important that transformation journey is to success. In some cases, I think Dave cited one particular customer who they were very proud of them. They saw a 60 to 70% reduction in the quantity of resources required to get the job done. That is exactly what these types of digital transformations can mean to all of us here in the industry. We talk about how much of this is hype, how much of this is just conversation, how much of it is happening in the Twitter background. No, this is real, and the proof is right here at the show. As people continue to wander around the conference, through the hub, through the world of solutions, they're having very real conversations about putting these technologies and these capabilities into hard action. And the metrics are here. The numbers are on the show floor, so if you're with us in Barcelona, or even if you're tuning in, ask the questions. Go up, make a contact, say, all right, tell me how it's actually working, show me the numbers. That is what we are here to do, and we've been having a lot of great interviews here on the set and walking around the show floor that go to just that. Yesterday we had a really nice Facebook Live session with Sachin Gupta. One of the questions that came in the door is this real? Or is it just something to make us sound like we're pushing the boundaries, like we're really, really cool? And Sachin assured us, no, this is in fact real, and we are seeing results, positive results out there every single day. So once again, our thanks, great video. We've got a couple more coming up here in the next couple of minutes. What we're going to do for now is shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about corporate responsibility here at Cisco, and we're going to do this in a variety of ways. First of all, there is something great that we're going to get to in just a couple of minutes. Straight down behind me over here in the hub, you can sort of see it in the background, called Rise Against Hunger. I will talk about that in a moment. We've actually got some great content and footage to show you, but I want to talk about how Cisco is empowering social change agents using technology, using expertise. We've got experts here at the show floor, and again, for those of you who are tuning in to the remote broadcast, when you get here to the show, you can take place, all right? We're going to come back, we're going to talk a bit more about Rise Against Hunger in just a moment. First, we're going to take a very short break. Don't go away, we'll be back in just a moment.
Think what it would be like if a network could configure millions of connections, not in months or even days, but in minutes. Think if it could protect based on what it knew, what it had learned from every attack. If it saw threats, even the ones hiding in encrypted traffic, before they happened. A network that over time can actually adapt itself because it knows what you're trying to do. That's the network for this new era. Right now, millions of new gadgets, devices, and things are connecting to the internet every day. More devices now than there are people. Think about that. Think about all that data, all that knowledge, fat, rich, thick intelligence, just waiting to be mined, extracted, analyzed, and used at speed. That's the network for this new era.